Welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me. It is review number 181. We are on part 11 of a series of a baker's dozen, 13 12-year-old Scottish single malts, and we have moved back to Speyside. This is one that was recommended to me whenever I reviewed the Balvenie 12-year-old. I think it was the 12-year-old double cask. This one was recommended to me then, the Balvenie single barrel. So I did a bit of search. It's quite, I was going to say it's quite hard to get now, or was I going to say it's quite easy? It's still about, okay? The Balvenie single barrel is still about. It's technically still considered part of their core range. And what it is they release this one in batch releases. There's never any more than 300 in a batch. And it's simply something in their core range which they just don't mess about with. The same. This, for anybody who's asking, is cask number 2825, bottle 83, and as I said, there's never more than 300 bottles in a batch. Single barrel, cask type, first fill. I know that cask type to be ex-bourbon barrels. Bottled at 47.8%, although I think they always bottle the series at 47.8%. Bit strange. Balvenie there, as I said earlier, in Speyside, owned by William Grants and Sons. This one comes in generally around the 60 to 70 pounds mark. There you go. That is the dates. So, first fill, bourbon cask, Speyside. Some of the things we like, although first fill bourbon cask, starting to get one of those things there, in my personal opinion, I would prefer now, and this is starting to maybe get a little anal, I suppose. I actually prefer sort of where I'm going down this path, second fill, where there isn't just the same influence. That's just me. Let's get into this one, shall we? Enough of my problems, enough of my woes. Bright, sweet, citrusy, slightly sharp. After 12 years in first fill bourbon casks, I would be expecting more vanilla. I would be expecting more caramel. But it's about this. The story here is lemon, in my opinion. And it's almost lemon to the point where it becomes like a scented detergent, if you know what I mean. And if that's the case, where after 12 years in first fill bourbon casks, I'm getting lemon of the case of, or lemon to the extent of scented detergent, then it must be the spirit, I would think, is on show here. It's the spirit that is the showcase that I'm getting that fruitiness from, that lemon, that citrus. This sweet malt hanging around. And it's got a bit of a floral tinge about it. So, I've said it before, those are all things that I would say when generally describing a space, and I know this generalizes a bit, generic Speyside, floral, sweet, even citrusy. Yeah. I think I'm just going into the palate here. Sweet, sour, slightly powdery, lemon sherbet. Yeah, lemon sherbet. And now, the bourbon cask is starting to come into play a little. Yes, vanilla. Yes, hints of caramel. Once again, not as much as I would expect. More of that sweet malt. but it's also a little dry. It's a little hot. Some hints of banana before really going into what is a rather hot, once again, chili lime chutney finish, hot, dry, relatively lengthy, but also forgettable. You know, in the scheme of things, this ain't going so well for the Balvenie 12-year-old single barrel. I know now, I've already, before I started filming, I did what I usually did. I poured my whiskey. I let it sit. I know when I did my tasting notes, I know because I've worked at this palette, worked at this bottle a little, that it takes time. It does take time. And it takes time with water. I would recommend, this is one that I recommend, add water to, let it settle, give it time. I've just added a few drops there. I've given it a little time while I was talking to you, not as much as it should. Give this time. This requires time. And that water calms the citrus. It releases the vanilla. And actually also hints of clove and or ground ginger. And hints of digestive biscuit. It's much, much more interesting when given time to settle, to breathe, add a drop of water. It definitely is much, much more interesting. To say it's tight without the addition of water, it's not that it's tight, it's just very citrusy and, to me, a little one-dimensional. It's got stuff going on, but it's not stuff that appeals to me personally. Yeah. Oh yes. That touch of water. Far gentler palate. The digestive biscuit shows up. Hints of honey. Still, it becomes fairly light, fairly sharp, still slightly dry, but it's just got more going on. It's more involving. Finish. Comes a little longer, a little more interesting. Little bitter on the back. But all the same, still far better with the addition of that water and a little time. I will say this. I have yet to have a Balvenie that has blown me away. As a matter of fact, I've yet to have a Balvenie that I've been that interested in fairness. This one, I did say earlier, can be hard enough to get, but it's still part of the core range. But would I replace it? No, I wouldn't. I'll drag it out. As a matter of fact, I still have the Balvenie Doublewood that I reviewed at one point. I believe I reviewed the Balvenie 14 rum cask at one point. I still have that because I just don't go back to Balvenie that often. It just doesn't blow me away by any means. I've yet to find, as I said, a Balvenie that appeals to me, and this one has joined that. It's pleasant enough, but I wouldn't replace it. So I'll just leave it at that. So, therefore, what would I recommend to you as an alternative? Well, this made me think of a couple of whiskies. One of them, and I can't remember exactly which one it was off the top of my head, was the first one I turned to, and I thought, this reminds me, and then I tasted it, and no, there was much, whatever it was, which I can't remember off the top of my head, there was more going on in it for me than there was in the Balvenie. So I'm going to recommend one. This might be, I suppose maybe, I'm going to say controversial, but the Balblair 12-year-old. Now, when I reviewed the Balblair 12-year-old, I certainly didn't give it a bad review. I just said it was a bit meh. And I still believe it to be a bit meh. I know other reviewers have given it great reviews and said about how good it is. For the price, and I still stick by this, for the price of Balblair 12, it's fantastic. What you get for your money. I mean, this was, I believe, natural colour, non-chill filtered, bottled at 46%. And I think this is something around the £38 mark. You know, that's fantastic value for money there. But it just lacked a little something for me, personally, was the best way I can describe it. But I know that there's others that love it. And fair play. Out of the two of these, Balblair 12-year-old and the Balvenie 12-year-old single barrel that I'm reviewing here, I would take the Balblair 12-year-old. So I'm actually, what I'm doing here is, this is an alternative, and an alternative I'm offering to you, which in my opinion is better. Yeah, I stick by what I said about Balblair 12-year-old. Good value for money, etc., etc. Just a bit meh, but still better than the Balvenie 12-year-old single barrel, in my opinion. Only my opinion. Remember, this will, I've said it, this will get better with time. I know it will. It gets that little lighter, that little brighter. The vanilla, the caramel start to play better with that citrus. And it's already doing it. It's already there. But it's never going to blow minds by any means. Never, ever. I think. So we'll just call that one. And I will say thank you very much for joining me. Always, always a pleasure. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. Should anyone wish to join that group, the details are in the video description below, as usual. I'll be back next time. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.